Good morning and welcome back to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. And we have in studio with us a very, very familiar face. Yes, we have here in studio with us Miss Renessa Ortiz, who is an event promoter, and she's here to talk about igniting journeys from silence to strength. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Akinlabi, and thank you so much for having me this morning.
No, I know you're usually on this side of the table. You're usually on this side of the interview on Wednesday mornings, but you're on the other side today.
Yes.
So tell us about igniting journeys from silence to strength. What is it really about, and what is the inspiration for having the event?
So I started my passion project last year, May 2024. It was My Beauty with a Purpose from Miss World. And I made a vow to myself after the competition, I would continue this initiative because it's something that is lacking in society. Oftentimes you hear about young men, father absence and how it impacts them, but you rarely hear about young women and their impacts that they face when their father isn't present. So I decided to revamp the initiative here in Tobago, and this is one of our first mini events in a series of events that we would be having to bring the issues that we have to light and to create that community for young women here in Tobago and by extension Trinidad and Tobago.
And this event, when will this event be taking place?
So this event is scheduled for Saturday, the 23rd of August. It's going to be held at Moon Over Water. It's going to be from 7 to 10 p.m. There's going to be an evening of young women coming together, sharing their stories, and in the process, healing as well. We also have registration available on our Instagram page at Daughters Echo. You can go there and fill in the information, and we hope to see you there tomorrow.
So you mentioned that it will have a number of women sharing their stories at the event. But apart from the women sharing the stories, is there anything else that will be taking place on the night?
On the night, we are hoping that there's one session where you'll be required to write something on a piece of paper. When you write that on a piece of paper, you're going to throw it into the bonfire as a symbol of releasing this hurt or this pain that you have been feeling or been going through.
And what has the interest been like? This is the second year you're doing it?
Yes.
And what has the interest been like leading up to the event?
So initially, I did an online workshop where I had about 6 young women across Trinidad and Tobago, and it was facilitated by Families in Action. And we were talking about forgiveness, resilience, and all of the things that come together to ensure that you are the young woman that you need to be in spite of this absence. And I think a lot of the times it comes across in low self-esteem, it comes across in the way you show up at school, it comes across in the way you show up in your relationships. And in society, because it has become so desensitized, the lack of a male presence in the home, we don't bat an eye at it anymore. But it's a real issue and it's something that needs to be addressed. So the first workshop that I held, there were 6 women. And after the workshop, I reached out to a few of them to ask them how they were going. And I remember in one particular instance, a young woman said to me, she reached out to her dad and she told him that she forgave him. And his response was a laugh. Now, imagine if she hadn't gone through the workshop, as she mentioned to me, she would not have been able to navigate that response. And for you as a daughter to get that response from the person that you are supposed to look up to, who's supposed to be your first love, that can be really hurtful.
Yeah. So it's a really, like you said, it becomes very normalized in society, the issue of absent fathers. In your experiences in the Tobago space, in your interactions with women, how has this issue really shown itself up in terms of behaviors you've noticed or mindsets and that kind of thing?
I am an example of that. My father wasn't present in the home. However, I had my grandfather, so he's considered my father figure, my daddy.
Yeah.
But it started with me, and that's why I am passionate about this project. It isn't something that I just pulled out of thin air. I've lived it, I've experienced it, and I've also seen it in my peers. I've seen it in friends. I've seen it in family. So quite often it's something that you see, or single mothers are left with majority of the work to do. Sometimes they have no community. I was lucky. My mom was lucky to have community to fall back on. There are some women who don't have that. And then if you don't have a stable job or your job is lost, then you have to study, how am I going to support this child? How am I going to support myself? And then if you aren't able to support the child and the child is going to school, they are lacking resources, they may be bullied at school, all of these things culminate into one package. And this is what we need to start looking at.
And in terms of in women as adults, in your experience with your friends and all of that, how do you see the issue of the lack of the father really impacting women in terms of being their whole self or being the best version of themselves?
So the acronym for Daughters Echo Navigating Absence is DINA, or you can also pronounce it DNE. Your father is part of your DNA. It's part of your identity. And when you don't have that opportunity to explore that and to know who that person is and how that relates to you as an individual, there's something missing. I know. I have experienced it. You usually want to know who your father is. You want to experience that time with them. And when you don't, there's something that is always there in the background that you're not sure exactly what it is. But it's just that one thing. And sometimes in your attempt to reconcile or try to have a relationship with your father, that probably shows you what a relationship with a male should look like, when in fact it isn't. And then you repeat these cycles in your relationships with men, sometimes with females as well, and you just don't know why it is. But when you dig deeper and you go below the surface, you realize this is a pattern you have learned from there.
So this initiative that you're undertaking is very commendable. I think it's very much needed. But in terms of doing further work, how would you say important doing something like counseling to get over those issues are to women experiencing the lack of a father in their life?
It is very important, and it's part of some of the initiatives I would like to undertake going forward in the future. But right now, it's just about getting the community together, letting the women know that this is a safe space for you to talk about. We understand, because majority of the committee members and majority of the board members are women with absent fathers. And it may not be in the sense of physically, it may be emotionally, it may be spiritually, financially. On the Instagram page, I started posting content about what absence looks like, what presence should feel like, and I also shared experiences where I observed friends who had present fathers. So you have both dynamics, and I also like to put into this as well. This is not about me excluding the men or bashing the men. This is me showing how important and necessary they are in the society, in the family structure, to ensure that we have children that are growing up with all the facets that they need to proceed and to progress.
And finally, if you had to tell women who have absent fathers one thing to really encourage them to participate in the initiative, what would you say to them?
In order for you to progress in life, some of the things that hold you back are things like these. And you don't realize it until later down, or maybe you hit a roadblock in a relationship, in your work relationships, in your friendships. And it is necessary that we deal with these issues so that we don't carry them along with us. And when we carry that baggage, a lot of times we aren't able to do the things that we need to do in life. I usually like to say the R in my name stands for resilience. And that is what I am in spite of all that has happened. Even in my Miss World experience, for my presentation for my Beauty with a Purpose, I shared a tidbit with the crowd where before I went into the room to present my presentation, I had a comment under one of my posts highlighting the negative impacts of father absence, and a person was saying I was seeking attention. And for members in the community to say that this is me seeking attention, it just goes to show how so far out of touch we are with how these simple things show up and the cycle repeats itself.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from Miss Renessa Ortiz, who's an event promoter, and she's talking about her initiative, Igniting Journeys from Silence to Strength. It's taking place this Saturday, August 23rd. That's tomorrow from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Moonover Water. That's in Pleasant Prospect. So if you have time, ladies, make your way down there and begin that journey towards healing. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that's all we have for the morning show today, but our programming does not end there. Up next, we have GMT. Yes, we have GMT coming up next. So do us a favor, share the live, share the live, share the live. GMT is up next.